PlugSeeker.
Good morning, welcome to another day in the life of the PlugSeeker. Now today is a lovely sunny Surrey day, and I'm doing a quick video today to demonstrate on a normal day just a little bit of what we call grazing, where you don't need a huge amount of charge, but you just top up a little bit while you're there. And this is one of the ways in which people keep their EVs charged up, which is different to the way that petrol drivers would work. So I'm leaving today, as you can see from this app here. I'm leaving here with actually quite a good level of charge. By the time I get to my work destination today, I'm probably going to be just down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug into a 7 kilowatt charger because I can while I'm there, and then it's going to just graze on a little bit of 7 kilowatt energy, and then we'll see. Hopefully I'll leave fully charged again. So this is one of the ways in which EV drivers just keep themselves slightly topped up using opportunistic charging. And I would point out, because I'm a Polar Plus member, these 7 kilowatt Polar chargers are actually free to use as part of my subscription. So let's head off. So I thought today I would just give a video just talking about the way that I approach driving, and particularly refueling my car. Now I've got an electric car. Now I've been an electric car driver for more than 5 years, and I would never ever dream of going back to owning a petrol or diesel. It would just seem like such a ridiculous regressive step now to go back to that old technology. I'm just looking forward to the day that everyone else catches up and realizes this is what the future is. It kind of reminds me of the time when I was getting the first DVDs in my collection and everyone else had VHS tapes, and oh no, this is a fad, this won't last. I suppose I've always been an early adopter, and I knew eventually when I was first buying DVDs that even though when I was buying them there was one tiny little shelf with about 10 DVDs on it, and the rest were all VHS tapes, but it was obvious to me even then that if we dialed up a few years down the line, they would all be DVDs and VHS would die a natural death. And obviously that's what happened. And it's exactly the same with electric cars, except there is the urgency now that there's an important reason to change. Not just because electric cars are far, far better technology, and that's obviously true. But obviously there is a reason to change urgently because of the damage that we're doing in terms of climate change, and obviously the more urgent issue of the severe air pollution which is poisoning our cities. Anyway, so how do I look at things differently now I'm an electric car driver? Well, I would say that when I was a younger driver, everything was about how fast was my car and how fast could I get from A to B. And at the time as a young man I had a Mazda MX-5, and I used to love speeding up and down the roads and really enjoying the acceleration and the seeing how fast I could get from one place to another. But now I'm an electric car driver. I mean, also I'm a little bit older, but I think as an electric car driver I found a different feel to driving. Now when it comes to the excitement factor, you cannot beat the feeling of rapid, immediate torque and acceleration from 0 to 30 in an electric car. I mean, it's this incredible feeling. You touch the pedal and you move. That's it. There's no waiting for pistons to turn and gas to ignite before everything moves and chugs it along. No, as soon as you press the accelerator, the motor gets the energy. Boom. It's a feeling like no other. It's this silent rush as you move forward. And bear in mind, I'm only driving a 30 kilowatt NissanLeaf. It's nothing compared to the acceleration you get in a Tesla or even a BMW i3. So yeah, so there is a fun factor in terms of enjoying the fast torque, but I now look at my driving a different way. I think, how can I get to my next destination in the most efficient way? So I'm always looking to see, when I did a journey, how were my miles per kilowatt hour? How was I doing? If anyone's interested, since I've owned this car, I've done nearly 20,000 miles, and my average miles per kilowatt hour is still at 4.1, and that's never been reset since I bought it. Now that won't mean much to a non-EV driver, but miles per kilowatt hour is the electric car vehicle's driver's equivalent of miles per gallon or miles per litre. Anyway, so yeah, so I find when I'm driving an electric car, it's a much more relaxing experience, and it's a lovely smooth drive. No noise, no chugging of an engine, no vibrations, no smell of the petrol or anything else like that. It's a quiet, peaceful, smooth drive with nice responsive acceleration. Really, any of you who have never experienced an electric car, who are natural petrol heads and dismiss it out of hand, I challenge any one of you, go down to your Nissan dealer and try out a NissanLeaf Mark II. Just have a look at the fun drive and the good tech on that car. Now, there are lots of other cars. I mean, I'm a Leaf driver, so I'm naturally keen on Nissan Leafs, but there are many other really excellent electric cars on the market. And it's an exciting time for electric cars, because come 2019, there's going to be a whole load more. Anyway, so it's a lovely drive. And I don't know if any other electric car drivers have noticed this, but I now enjoy a drive. What used to be a pain in the neck to go from A to B sometimes is a pleasurable experience. If I'm told now I've got to drive up to Birmingham or up to Glasgow from London, I don't think of that as a, oh God, I've got that long drive. I think about that as, wow, that's going to be fun. I look at my journey, I plan how many charge stops I might need, and I love the experience of going out in my electric car on the motorway, in the country. Driving an electric car is just a pleasure. And another thing I've noticed is, I think I'm a calmer driver now I'm an electric car driver. I definitely find I don't get that road rage sort of feeling as much anymore. I would say I'm more tendent to let someone out at a junction, or pause for a pedestrian to let them cross. I find I'm a more polite and generally a friendlier driver than when I was driving a petrol car. Now, is that because I enjoy my electric car driving so much? Possibly. Is that because I'm a little bit older? Quite possibly also, but I find driving now is a much more pleasurable experience than it used to be. And my wife now has an electric car. About 3 years after me, she bought a NissanLeaf as well. And she loves to drive. And she was one who was not a natural electric car enthusiast. She came at it, I think, through the logical choice of an enjoyable drive, having drove my car, and the cost savings in terms of fuel. Now, that brings us along nicely to fuel, and one of the things I'll demonstrate on today's journey. There is a different, how to put it, you got to look at fueling an electric car differently to the way you looked at fueling your petrol car. Now, when you fuel a petrol car, you wait till you're running down low and you happen to be out and about and you fill up your car. You've probably filled it up to mostly full, and then you gradually use up the petrol and then you fuel it up again. Now, there are some differences and some similarities. Now, one of the main differences with an electric car is a large number of us, now not everyone, but a large number of us have got our own garages or driveways. If you've got either of those, you can have an electric plug or an electric charger. And bear in mind, currently, if you buy a brand new electric car, the government will pay a grant and you can have an electric 7 kilowatt charger, which will charge an electric car in about 4 hours usually. You get one of those installed in your house for free. So, as I say, most of us will have, or a lot of us will have, an electric plug or charger at the place where we live. In which case, one of the big differences, you naturally will plug in your car overnight. Now, that means your daily drive, it's say less than the total range of your electric car, which varies, then that means you just run your car entirely off of your home supply. Most people tend to plug in at night when the tariff is cheaper. So there's a big difference. You charge your car a bit like you charge your phone. You plug it in before you go to bed, and when you get up in the morning, your car is fully charged. So there's a big difference. Obviously, none of us have got petrol pumps at home, so we don't fill up our petrol cars overnight. So usually, that means you'll start your day with a full tank of energy, as it were, a full tank of electricity. So that's the first difference, I would say. Sorry about the sunlight glare there. Second difference, I would say, is that if you're doing a longer trip that's well longer than your car's natural range, then you're going to have to do just a little bit more planning. But for the sake of the environmental gains and everything else, I don't think that's a big issue, and you'll find you get perfectly used to it. So if I'm going on a trip to Birmingham, for instance, that's a bit more than the complete range of my electric Leaf, so I will usually plan to stop just once at a rapid charger. Now, rapid chargers will charge most electric cars up to at least 85% of their full tank within about 20, maybe 35 minutes at the most, which is usually enough time to have a coffee, a quick leak, stretch your legs, and you're back off again. So yes, that's different from fueling with petrol, which takes 5 to 10 minutes. It takes probably twice as long, but that is not a big issue. Please believe me, as a ex-petrol driver, that's not a big issue. You soon get used to that, and for the sake of 10-15 minutes longer journey it would take me to get to Birmingham for the charging, I have done that for a fraction of the price, and I've not harmed the environment hardly at all compared to what it would be using a petrol car. So rapid charging is the equivalent of, as far as electric car drivers are concerned, is the equivalent of going to a petrol station. It just takes a little bit longer to charge up than it does to fuel up with petrol. However, the third way in which electric car drivers will differ in their activities to petrol drivers refueling is that electric car drivers will do what we call grazing. Now that means when we are parked up, say at the supermarket, at work, if you've got a workplace charger, or at a hotel or a friend's house who's got a plug. What you do is when you're at those places for, let's say, an hour to 3 hours or whatever, or a day at work, what you do is you just plug into a slow charger, which is a 7 kilowatt usually charger, and that will fuel your car up from empty to full in about 4 hours. So what you'll do is you'll just get a few extra percentage, and you'll add that onto your batteries. You just get a few extra percentage on your car, and by doing that you'll find you need to charge less often, and it's another way that electric car drivers just keep charging up as and when, almost like opportunistic charging is what grazing charging is. Now that's very different to petrol car drivers. You wouldn't bother if you've only used 15% of your use on your petrol tank. You wouldn't bother to make a separate stop to a petrol station just to fill that little bit up because you happen to go past the petrol station. You wouldn't do it like that. But you would do that in an electric car. Basically what you're doing is you're combining your time. So the example today is I'm at work today, but I'm only doing a morning period at work today from 9 till 1 o'clock. So today is a good example to, what it's like to be grazing. So I'll be arriving at work very shortly, and at our work, I'm pleased to say, there is a 7 kilowatt Polar Plus charger. This one can be used pay as you go using the Polar app, or if you're a Polar Plus member, there is no charge. It's already covered by your monthly membership. So as far as I'm concerned, as I'm a Polar Plus member, whenever I use this charger at work when it's available, I'm basically getting it for free because it's already paid for in my membership. So today I've started with about 91%. I'll show you what the charge is when I get to the work charger, and I'll show you what the charge is again when I finish. I'll also use this as an example of what it's like to use a normal 7 kilowatt Polar freestanding charger. And once again, I apologise for the picture quality. I'm driving at the moment. Excuse me. Apologise for the picture quality. I'm driving at the moment, obviously, so I can't adjust the phone, and there's unfortunately a bit of a glare because it's a very sunny day today. So unfortunately you'll just have to ignore that. Right, so I'm just arriving now. So this is a 7 kilowatt Polar freestanding charger, and I'm just going to quickly demonstrate how you use one of these. It's pretty straightforward, and you will need one of these Polar Plus cards. Okay, so first lift up the flap and open the Type 1 socket on the NissanLeaf, and then you go to the charger and you put your card on the sensor, and then it asks you to plug in either socket. So then we take this, then we take this lead, which is for the NissanLeaf, and this is a Type 1 to Type 2 charger. I always recommend buying a 10-meter lead, as you never know when you might be iced and you have to stretch it along the way. So we plug this in, this socket here. So we plug that in there, and then you take the other end here, you take the other end with the Type 1 charger, and you plug that in like that, and you hear the beep, suggests it's connected, and you'll see the light on the right hand side has now changed to green, confirming connection has been made and the charger has started. And as I said, this is a Charge Master post, and as you can see here, it's part of the Polar network. Okay, so as you can see, I'm connected to the 7 kilowatt Polar charger and it's charging away nicely. So this is the percentage on my car, as you can see, and this is how much it's changed in the short journey to work. Just for reference, as I say, I drive a 30 kilowatt NissanLeaf Centre. So I've got to head into work now, and when we come back I'll show you how to disconnect from a 7 kilowatt post, and we'll see how much percentage is on my car when we leave. See you in a moment. So I've just finished work and I'm coming back now to disconnect my car. So again, I take the Polar Plus card. Okay. And put the card up there on the reader. It beeps, and you can then disconnect the cable. It starts flashing. Disconnect that, and it goes blue again. So now you come down to the car, press down on the button and pull out the Type 1 cable. Close the cap, and it's done. Now, when tidying up your Type 1 to Type 2 cable, best to neatly coil it up like I've done here, and make sure you put on the protective caps on the tops of the plugs. This will prevent them getting wet or dirty, and it's advisable to get a proper bag to carry your electric cable in. Now, as you can see, I've got a very nice bag here. This bag is by simplyev.co.uk, but I would definitely advise looking into buying this bag. I've been very pleased with it, and I'm happy to say, compared to the bags I've had before, this one's nice and strong and robust, and it nicely carries a coiled cable in it. I'll put up the details here to show you where you can purchase one of these. Right, let's put my cable neatly away, and there we go, all done, nice and tidy. Time to head off. So that's it, normal day at work, and I've now been grazing, as they call it, charging on a 7 kilowatt charger, and my car is back to 100% again. So as you can see, this is a different practice to petrol cars, where intermittently at a petrol station. Here I've just used the charger sitting there while I'm parked at work. I've come back to a fully charged, or full tank as you might call it, of fuel ready to go again. All right. So today while I was at work, I left a little note on my windscreen with my mobile number and just saying, please ring me if you need this charger, and I'm happy to come out and move if need be. That being said, there were at least 3 or 4 charging points that weren't in use as well. They're all 7 kilowatts chargers where I work, so there were plenty of other options. But yeah, I did leave a note so that if somebody desperately needed to use the charger, as I was only grazing for charge, I didn't really desperately need it, I would have more than happily popped out and moved to another space or unplugged to allow that user to charge. I think it is important to remember charging etiquette. It's just common politeness.
Same goes for a rapid charger. If I'm at a motorway stop or another rapid elsewhere, if I'm not in the car, if I pop out to get a coffee or whatever, again I leave a little note. I can also be contacted via PlugSeeker, because I always try to check in on PlugSeeker when I'm using it. I also have the app Charge Bump as well. I'll put those links up for those apps there to allow people to contact me, but as I say, I leave my mobile number as well. And especially on a rapid charger, I would make sure I was easily contactable if I was off for a coffee, if somebody needed to desperately use the charger more than I do. Although at a rapid charger, let's face it, you're only going to be there for 20-30 minutes anyway. It is important that EV drivers and PHEV drivers do not sit on rapid chargers for longer than 30 minutes. There's nothing worse than being desperate for a charge and somebody's disappeared off for a couple of hours. And that as I say, that goes for pure BEV, pure electric drivers, not just PHEVs. You mustn't leave rapids blocked for long periods. Some of you watching this may be petrol or diesel drivers still. Please, can I ask you, on behalf of EV drivers, not to park your car in an electric charging bay, and especially on a motorway service station, please do not block or park your car in a rapid charger, because it's necessary for electric car drivers to charge their cars, and you really should not be parking your cars there. I would ask you, if the tables were turned and you were desperate to get petrol and you were driving on fumes, and if you got to a petrol station and then found that the only working pumps were blocked by an electric car who had just sat there and disappeared off to the cinema or something, just imagine how incredibly annoyed that would make you feel, that you couldn't get to the petrol pump because some selfish person had parked their car blocking it. Okay, when you park your car in an electric charging space, that's what you're doing to an electric car driver. So please don't ignore the signs when they say they're electric car charging spaces. Please try and find an alternate place to park. Sorry, that was not meant to be a rant. It's just me asking politely if you could please be considerate. Of course, what I really would like to do is try to encourage you petrol and diesel fossil fuel drivers to consider getting an electric car. I would really urge you to consider going for a test drive. Go for a test drive. Go to Nissan, try out a NissanLeaf. If you want a smaller sort of Nissan micro-sized car, then go to Renault and test drive a Renault Zoe. Fabulous cars. If you've got a little bit of extra money and you're not too bothered about slightly smaller boot space and you like a nice performance electric hatchback, then go to BMW. Find one of the dealers that are selling the BMW electric i3. Give one of those a spin. There are of course other electric cars and other brands, but I would say those are the three I would first go for if you want to try and experience an EV. And if you do try out an electric car and think, oh, I'd like to get one of these, please do get in touch with me at Twitter. I'm not in the car business, okay? So I'm totally independent of these things, but I do know of some very good contacts of electric car specialists, and I'm more than happy to help chat about electric cars. Contact me on Twitter or email me. My details are below in the description, and if you are interested in get a bit more information about electric cars, I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. And I say, if if you do a test drive and decide you want one, I've got some ideas of people you can get in touch with who are electric car specialists who may be able to have some good deals, maybe some better deals than you might get from one of the main dealerships. Who knows? You may also want to consider used cars, which may be a little bit cheaper. So yeah, please do get in touch. It was really nice at Fully Charged Live to speak to people there who were looking at the electric cars for the first time and considering buying them. One of the things that surprised me at Fully Charged Live, which was a big electric car event, the first of its kind, held for hosted by Robert Llewellyn, and I'll be doing a video of that in the not too distant future. One of the things that really surprised me at that event was the number of people who attended who weren't electric car drivers, that were there out of curiosity and wanting to learn more. When they asked a straw poll of the audience, what really surprised me is I think about 2/3 of them weren't electric car drivers. So that's nice. It's good to hear that people are showing an interest, and let's hope some of those went on to buy electric cars. Now, for the benefit of some of the NissanLeaf drivers around, I'd like to give a little bit of feedback to a previous YouTube video posted by another really prominent YouTuber called EV Opinion, and I'll put a link to his channel there. He did a video recently looking at the different types of settings on the NissanLeaf on the 30 kilowatt to see which ones had the best mileage and efficiency. And I thought I might feedback here on this video, and that I have recently followed his advice, and I've been driving mainly in normal driving commuter roads, so that's not motorway driving. I've had it in B mode with eco turned off, and I have to say I've noticed an improvement in efficiency. Now, comparing like with like, previous weeks I found my average miles per kilowatt was 4.5. Since changing the setting, my average miles per kilowatt over the recent weeks has gone up to 4.7, or even 4.8. So I have to say, I have to feed back that I concur that that setting appears to be slightly better. And again, that's for road commuting. And my thanks to EV Opinion. He has an excellent channel. I really couldn't recommend it more. Please do check it out. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. So nice to feed back to you there, EV Opinion. You're quite right. The B mode with eco turned off, I have found that on normal road traffic that does appear to be very slightly more efficient. So interesting. Next time I do a motorway journey, I'll try it on that mode as well and see if there's any difference. So there you go. So nearly home now, so I'm going to just put the camera back to the road, and I'll see you again in a moment when I get back home. So, finally arrived back home. So I'll put up here, just here, I'll put the stats from today's journey. Today was just an example, a day in the life of an EV driver, just doing a normal quick commute to work and back and using a workplace charger, just do a bit of grazing for a bit of electricity whilst parked. Interestingly, you can see from these stats the distance driven, and in fact I've come back with 92% when I left with 91%. So as a result of a little bit of opportunistic charging, I've come back with a little bit more power in my car than I left home with. And because I'm a Polar Plus subscriber, that didn't cost me anything extra. So for those of you still driving petrol or diesel fossil fuel cars, please consider giving an electric car a chance and giving it a test drive, because I promise you, once you've tried one, you'll never go back. I've been driving one for 5 years now, and there is no way on earth I would ever even consider buying a fossil fuel car again. Anyway, that's me done for the day. I'm going to enjoy my Sunday afternoon now. It's a lovely sunny day today. So this is the PlugSeeker signing off. Happy charging.